Hello everyone, it's Emily with EMK Creations. It's been a while since I have done a video, but I'm excited to show you a technique today. The Creative Collab Crew is back at it, and this week we gave ourselves a technique challenge of using our blocks. And so you'll see the three of us have each done something different. Kathy and I are similar on how we did it, but still two different ways of using it to add ink. And then Melissa's is totally different, which is cool. I've not tried hers and I'm excited to. So make sure you check out all of our videos, but I am going to show you how I used my Stampin' Right markers on a block to get this kind of faded. I don't know if you call it ombre when there's multiple colors, but this, gradient background here. I am using the Sunrise Sailing stamp set. I just really like this one. Just a nice online exclusive that we have. It does have a hybrid embossing folder, which is also super cool. Not using that on this project, but make sure you check that out. All of our online exclusives have just kind of been knocking it out of the park lately. I am using 5 different colors of markers. So I wrote them down here: Azure, Afternoon, Blueberry, Bushel, Coastal Cabana, Curry. Why can I not remember my names anymore? Daffodil Delight, and Crushed Curry. Man, I'm blanking there. So 5 different colors of markers, and I'm going to end up going from light to dark with them. So I'll show you that when I get going. I also have a spritzer just filled with water. There's so many different things you can do with these as well. If you've never played with them, it's definitely something to check out. Sometimes I'll have rubbing alcohol in them depending on what I'm doing because it dries faster. You also can put rubbing alcohol with any of our reinkers and get colored ink to spritz on things as well. And then I'm using our Fluid 100 watercolor paper. I've cut this down to 2 1/4 by, I think these are, what, 5-inch probably. The nice thing is if you're just cutting it, I don't have to cut it twice. I just needed to cut the one strip off of there. So I'm going to set these aside and kind of walk you through how I did this. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my markers, and like I said, I'm going to go light to dark starting at the top, and I'm using the brush tip. I'm just going to add some yellow and then the next yellow. And then I'm going to go with my blues. So next up is Coastal Cabana. And again, I'm just using that brush tip, just adding a little bit of color on there, kind of starting where the one ends. And I'm going to go all the way down till I have all of these colors on there. Again, there's no right or wrong. You just kind of add the color to it. Just like that. And then I'm actually going to set it aside just for a second because I'm going to get the watercolor paper ready. I chose to grab, I'm just using a kit box that's empty, so I didn't make a mess all over everything I'm doing here a lot, and so you could see it. A lot of times I'll do it just like off to the side, but I wanted you to be able to see me spritz, so I put it inside a box so I don't get everything else wet. So I am just going to spritz it up quite a bit actually. I will say it's also going to need to dry, which I did not think that part through. So I may just end up showing you how I put the card together in the end. The other thing I'm going to have you do is, and this is going to sound weird, I'm not going to show you because I'm not going to turn my camera, but you're going to take it, you're going to hold it up to your mouth, and you're going to breathe on it. Like exhale the warm air out of your mouth. Kind of like huffing, if you will. And that will kind of reactivate the ink, if you will. And then you're just going to put it down on here, and you're going to press. And I recommend doing that whole breathing on it anytime you use your markers if you're like coloring a stamp as well. So if we had done maybe a different color for each of these, again, kind of breathe on it before you stamp and it'll just get it ready to go again because that ink can start to dry a little bit. So you'll notice how it's starting to smear a little bit on there. So I just pressed really hard and ended up with that. I did look like I missed a little bit of doing it closer to the edge. And I'm going to grab a paper towel. And I am going to just kind of sop up, but I might be able to take it and kind of smooth it so that it goes closer to the edge. The other thing you could do is if it didn't blend as much as you want, you could go back and I can spritz it a little bit more. And now it's going to get it wet and maybe smear some of that a little bit more for us. So you can always add the water, you can't take it away, but you can do that as well. So lots of things. It's fun to kind of play around with it. If you've never really messed with our watercolor paper before, I definitely recommend trying it. There's so many different techniques you can do, but you can see how the ink then kind of blends on there once it gets wet. So as I said, I didn't think through the fact that that will need to dry for a minute before we can stamp on it, because if we go ahead and stamp our black on there right now, it's also going to smear, and that's not what I want. So I will, again, kind of just mention to you the other things I did here. Just took a piece of yellow and I did wrap some of our twine around it. This is part of the, I think it's called Pack Your Bags twine, and there's 3 different colors in there. So I added that, which is the Azure Afternoon that goes with it. And then one of these I did on black and one I did on Azure Afternoon. So I'm curious which one you like better, the black background or the blue background. So that is how I put my card together. Pretty simple overall, but just a fun technique. And I have some other cards I'm going to show you this week where I did some other variations on this, if you will, but the same idea of putting the ink directly onto my block and then adding it to my cards using my markers. So play along with us, give it a shot, and share with us what you've done. Until next time, thanks.